Hi, this is Kokido3, and I'm back with another Through the Ages video. So in the last video, I covered the second 4-player game I played in the second round of the World Championships in 2025, and I won that game, as you can see. The previous game that I played in, there was a timeout in the first turn, so I won't be recording that game, but I won that one as well, which puts me in a good position to potentially win the group, but obviously, the group's far from over. There's still 6 games to go, and today I will be covering one of the 3-player games between me, Aaronwebber, and Bull3. So, let's take a look. So, in this game I'm playing first. We can take a quick look at the leaders and wonders. There's Hollywood with Chaplin and Marlena, so theaters might be strong this game. There's also Einstein, Sid Meier, Bill Gates, and Marie Curie, so there's a lot of science leaders. No spaceflight, though. There's an internet. No Manhattan Project either. We have a Red Cross, so saving up food might be nice. There's also Gandhi. In Age 2, we have some powerful wonders, Ocean Liner Service and Railroad. We have Nobel and Newton as strong science leaders, so there definitely seems to be some science synergy in this game. There's also Bach, though, in case you want to go into theaters. There's also the Maria and Ocean Liner Service combo. No military action leaders in Age 2, notably. Most of the wonders are good, though. St. Peter's Basilica, again, if you want to go into theaters, though there's no Michelangelo. As for my turn, so I have to pick what to take first. I think Patriotism and Stockpile are both bad AJ cards, so it's pretty much between these 3 cards. Acropolis, not that great in a 3-player game, as it is in 2-player. Better than a 4-player, I think, and there is some theater synergy in this game, again, so it might be worth considering. Moses is an alright leader, but I think there are stronger leaders already in the row, and potentially in the deck as well. I think I didn't spend too long selecting Stonehenge, though. I value Stonehenge a lot. I think it is my second favorite AJ wonder. I think the immediate science boost it gives you is extremely valuable. The happy face can also be useful. Hopefully I might get it with Hammurabi, but even if I don't, I still think it's much stronger than both Acropolis, especially in a 3-player game, and Moses. Aaronwebber takes Confucius. Makes sense, I think he's the strongest leader in the row. And Bull3 takes Aristotle and Acropolis. Takes the leader in wonder, fair enough. I was pretty happy about the result of my turn, though, because I think the weakness of Stonehenge, obviously, is it takes 4 civil actions to complete, so Hammurabi, I think, is the best leader to pair with it. So I definitely wanted to take Hammurabi and elect him. So now I have 2 civil actions left, and I think this is also pretty straightforward. I want to build a mine and take the Engineering Genius, best AJ yellow card. So I was very happy with this start. I think it's pretty much the strongest start as you can possibly hope for. Powerful leader, powerful wonder, powerful synergy, and an Engineering Genius. Aaronwebber elects Confucius, builds a mine, and begins construction of the Colossus, which there's no Suez Canal, so not the best AJ wonder, but it's the last one in the row. We could potentially consider skipping the AJ wonder, with there being some good Age 1 wonders to go into instead, but there's no Age 1 cards. If Aaronwebber wanted to elect Confucius and build a mine, which you do need to, there's only 2 civil actions left. Maybe they could have increased his population and taken an urban growth. That I think is worth considering. I might have done that in Aaronwebber's position, but this is also defensible. Bull3 elects Aristotle, builds a mine, increases their population, and takes that urban growth, so seems like a fair, pretty good, normal turn. Now it's my turn. I have nothing to cede, so that's not a decision. I think, first of all, I have no reason not to increase my population and build this lab. I don't have enough resources to complete Stonehenge anyway. And I still have 3 civil actions left, so if I really want to take one of these cards, I could. But none of these, I think, are hugely... Okay. No, so, after this, I had a little bit of a difficult decision, I think. And it's one that I might regret in retrospect, but we'll talk about that when I get there. I think there are some good options here. Barbarossa, I think, is a strong leader. Potentially the strongest Age 1 leader. He requires a bit of support, but I think when you get him early on like this, he can potentially be useful if basically you only build military units with him. I think he can be very strong. Does, often require a third military action and an irrigation to reach his full potential, but even without those, I think he can be very strong. Bread and circuses, also, I'll want a happy face solution at some point with the Stonehenge, and not as critical though, and I don't know if I'll get the development of religion, so maybe not worth taking it so early for 2 civil actions. Warfare might be good with Hammurabi, but in a 3-player game I think it's less viable because there's 2 copies of Kanman. I think the general issue I had this turn was if I took one of these, I think the best card in the 2 roads to take would be Barbarossa. But I think I wasn't sure the extent to which I would be able to support him. And also, I mean, it's not a big deal, but, I would have an extra civil action, and, maybe I could take the cartography, but again, especially with Hammurabi, I think it's bad because you don't have a lot of military card draws to draw colonies, so I think maybe in retrospect, Barbarossa still would have been better, and maybe take the cartography after all, or maybe just use, I can't use the engineering, don't want to use the engineering genius on Stonehenge, maybe increase my population, even though that does get me into consumption early. Kind of a difficult turn. What I ended up deciding on was to take the Theocracy. You could even consider just taking Barbarossa and even not using Hammurabi to get to military cards draw. I did end up taking the Theocracy, so my logic here was that obviously with Hammurabi, there's always an option to do a revolution easier, because you can do a revolution and then still have a civil action left to get out of corruption. And so basically my thinking was I could take the Theocracy here, which would let me do a revolution into it next turn for only 1 science, get out of corruption by increasing my population, and then I would have this government form. I would have a 3rd military action with Hammurabi, which is nice. I would have a 2nd happy face to pair with the Stonehenge. So when you have 1 happy by the end of Age 1, you want 2 happy faces. Stonehenge only gives 1, but Theocracy will give it a 2nd, which means I could get away without taking any happy face technologies in Age 1, which is always nice to do because they're inefficient technologies. And obviously culture bonus, strength bonus are also nice. It was also, I think, kind of like, well, I'll try it out and see how it goes play. It's definitely not one that I've ever done before. So I was also, there's maybe an element of like, overconfidence because, well, maybe not overconfidence. I think the Age 4 game's ended by now, but I think there's an element of, I'm curious to see how this will turn out, so I'll try it. So we'll see how it turns out, but, maybe Barbarossa and increasing my population, or even just taking like a rich land or something, would have ended up being a better play. Aaronwebber doesn't seed with Confucius, notably. Maybe neither of these are events he wants in the deck. Increases population, builds a 2nd lab, and increases population again, so he probably didn't want, and takes the cartography, which does pair nicely with the Colossus, and should have enough science to afford it with Confucius if he starts seeding soon. So, makes sense. Bowl 3 also doesn't seed, uses the urban growth to build a 2nd lab, takes a swordsman, and frugality, so seems to be looking to get some population into military, perhaps. Now it's my turn, so, I decided that even though I could do the Theocracy Revolution and then increase my population, I decided I didn't want to because I got an important card in the row instead, this Masonry. I think when you have Stonehenge, the Masonry is an especially powerful card, especially like now if I can play it before I've constructed any urban buildings, except my 2nd lab. Because not only will it basically refund the 2 civil actions I spend to take and play it when I use it to build the Stonehenge, but it'll also obviously give me discounts on urban buildings later. Now, the weakness in this case is that when you use the masonry on the Stonehenge, you don't really want to use the engineering genius with it, right? Because you want to spend one civil action to build 2 stages at a time. So that does mean that this engineering genius may be stuck in my hand, and I'll really want to use it on an Age 1 wonder later. But there are powerful Age 1 wonders. Now, one of them I'm not going to be able to get, this Forbidden City, but I could still potentially get the Silk Road, especially. I think the main reason I wanted the Masonry, or the one that decided taking this instead of the Theocracy Revolution, was because there's also the Silk Road in the game, and obviously Masonry Engineering Genius Silk Road is also very strong. So I thought the Masonry had the opportunity to both refund me a lot of civil actions onto powerful wonders, and give me some urban building discounts. So I do think this was right. I do think this is right, and it is very powerful in my position. And because I have the Masonry, I think I also want the Alchemy. You know, the Masonry will let me upgrade to Alchemy much cheaper. It'll save me 2 resources, so I think that is also strong. That leaves me with 2 civil actions left. My hand is full right now, and I do have to get out of Corruption. And so I think, yeah, I don't want to get out of Corruption. Well, I think maybe, do I play Masonry and build? No. So, yeah, I think playing the Masonry and building 2 stages in the Stonehenge wouldn't have gotten me out of Corruption, because, yeah, I needed to spend 3 resources. That would have spent 3, but put 2 blue tokens on it. So I have to get out of Corruption by increasing the population. And now my hand is full, so I can't take another card. I don't really want any of these cards anyway. So I think I ended up just, yeah, playing the Masonry because I have nothing better to do with my 5th civil action. Aaronwebber Seeds finally reveals development of religion, so it's a good thing I increased my population last turn. Builds 1 stage of the Colossus, takes a Knight, and the Breakthrough, which I think is a good turn. Bull 3 offers an open borders agreement to Aaronwebber, who accepts. I think that makes sense that the extra military action is much stronger for Hammurabi, so I think that makes sense from Bull 3's perspective. They take the Iron for 2 civil actions, and they get to play it and upgrade 1 turn, so I think that's quite a strong turn from Bull 3. Now it's my turn. That was at Dark Ages that I chose to seed. It's a little bit risky to seed Dark Ages. It is a Dark Ages. No, it doesn't say, but yeah, I thought I saw this. It is a bit risky to siege with the Stonehenge, but I think that I thought that I could potentially. I think, you know, I wanted to get an event card in the deck. At least I know that Dark Ages is in there. And like I said earlier, one perspective is with the science income I'll get from the Alchemy, I'll be able to recover from the Dark Ages potentially better than my opponents will. I'll just have to make sure that I spend my science in time. But with a Theocracy in hand, that also shouldn't be a problem. And I reveal a development of civil life. So, I actually thought I did want to take the development of religion, even though I have 2 happy faces in hand. It's still free religion, which I think is valuable. And I actually spent some time thinking about what to spend my development of civil life on, because my original plan, I think, was to complete the Stonehenge this turn. But I decided the benefit. Actually, maybe the possibility of doing this is one reason I seeded, because if I had 3 science, which that turn, which was not enough to play the Alchemy, but now with either a development of civil life or development of science or development of trade routes, I would have had enough science to play an upgrade in Alchemy this turn, which, you know, always better to get that science going sooner. So I can upgrade now both of my labs to Alchemies at a discount, which is definitely nice. Now I have 3 civil actions left, and, you know, there's a monarchy in the row, but I already have a Theocracy, so kinda regret more taking the Theocracy now, I think, with the monarchy being available for 2, which I do generally prefer, but that's how it is. I have kind of a difficult choice to make now. I think that there are 2 very powerful technologies on the row now that could have lost on the Knights. both of which I definitely really want. Code of Laws, especially with Theocracy, I think is very important to ensure I have the 5th civil action, and I will certainly have enough science to afford it. That won't be a problem. Knights, though, is also an important technology to have, obviously, because Knights' tactics are so strong. I think... What did I take in the end? Yeah, I took the Knights mainly because the first copy of Knights has already been taken by Aaronwebber, whereas this is... So this is, if I don't take this Knights, I'll never get it. Whereas this is only the first copy of Code of Laws, there's still going to be a second one coming. So I thought that I would still have an opportunity to get a Code of Laws later, even by passing this up, but this is my only chance to get the Knights, which I think is sound logic. And with my last civil action, I did consider taking the breakthrough, but again, like in the last game I covered, I'm going to be having a lot of science thanks to the Stonehenge and the alchemies. So I'm a little bit of a... Once I switch to my Age 1 leader with the Theocracy, I'll still only be on 4 civil actions. So I felt that not spending the civil action on the 2 science was not worth to me the civil action spent on the card, and I would rather increase my population, which I'll want to do at some point anyway. You know, when you're on the Theocracy, you have to be a lot more civil action conscious. Breakthrough definitely would have been a justifiable pick as well, though. Aaronwebber Seeds reveals the development of science, finishes the Colossus, takes the monarchy, will have enough science probably with Confucius, and takes a rich land. Bull 3 takes Saladin. I and Aaronwebber both passed it up. It was only available for 3 civil actions for me, which I didn't think was worth it. But Bull 3 gets him for 2, which one of my favorite Age 1 leaders, and probably the best one left in the deck. Oh yeah, one consequence. Luckily for me, I'll also be able to get a strong Age 1 leader with Leonardo. Anyway, Bull 3, Bull 3 also takes the Code of Laws, so unfortunately Bull 3 gets the Code of Laws for 1 civil action, which is very strong for them. Has enough science to develop both immediately, elects Saladin, and increases the population, and builds a warrior to get out of corruption. Now it's my turn. I have to be a little bit worried about strength now. Luckily I did draw a tactic next turn, a Knight's tactic, which definitely made me feel a lot better about taking the Knights here. I do think of all the leaders left, Leonardo is the best. I won't need Gutenberg, I already have my alchemies. Nostradamus can definitely be strong. Columbus, I'm almost certainly not going to get a colony for. But I think that when you're on alchemies, Leonardo is one of the best Age 1 leaders. The extra science and extra resource can be very strong, so I definitely like him here, and I elected him. I could have maybe waited more turn, but I decided that I think maybe I'll be using by electing him this turn, I'll be able to now develop the Theocracy, which will give me an extra resource from Leonardo, which will let me finish the Stonehenge immediately. So I was happy to get Leonardo this turn, lets me finish the Stonehenge. Theocracy now makes me safe from an aggression, which is another big benefit of playing it now. And I also wanted to finish the Stonehenge this turn because I really was looking for an opportunity to play the Engineering Genius. I wanted to be able to take the Silk Road next turn. Got a little bit unlucky that the Silk Road was one of the last cards in the deck, but that's how it goes sometimes. And I took a Rich Land because by doing the other things I did this turn, I didn't have enough civil actions to take this Iron, which means that Aaronwebber is likely going to take the Iron, which means I'm going to have to be on Coal Mines, and when you're on Coal Mines, as I said last time, I think the Rich Land is a necessary card. Aaronwebber Seeds reveals the development of settlement, develops the monarchy, increases his population, and takes the Himeji Castle, which looks like he's going to be heavy into strength this game. Bull 3 finishes the Acropolis, takes a Rich Land, takes an Urban Growth, a lot of yellow cards, and takes a Drama. So it looks like Bull 3, like in the previous game, is going to be pushing culture early. I definitely... I did feel that the Code of Laws was necessary here. The Silk Road, if I took it, I wouldn't be able to use the Engineering Genius anyway, so unfortunately the Engineering Genius is going to end up being wasted. But I thought the Code of Laws was an absolutely critical card for me to have while I'm on Theocracy, so I did not hesitate to take and play it. Now, this leaves me with one civil action left, and I also have to get out of Corruption. Aaronwebber did not actually take the iron, so one option is to take the iron, and I can always get out of Corruption by building a warrior, which I'll want to do so anyway for this Phalanx tactic. Heavy Cavalry, probably... It's always really hard to get the Heavy Cavalry going when you're not Genghis Khan. So I think that's certainly an option. Another option, perhaps, is to play the Knights this turn and make a Knights instead. What do I end up doing? That is what I end up doing. So, yeah, I decided not to take the iron because even if I were to make some irons next turn, they would be relatively late iron mines. Now, there is a weakness of this, obviously, because now neither Aaronwebber nor I have an iron, which means that the 2 coals in H2 will be contested. However, I am playing before Aaronwebber, so I should have more of an opportunity than him to get the first coal. So that's one reason why I did it this way. Maybe in retrospect, though, it was kind of risky. If I had taken the iron and built a warrior, then next turn I would have had, I would have had 6 resources plus the rich land, so plus an extra one from Leonardo, so I actually would have been able to play the iron and upgrade it 3 times next turn, which would have been, even though it's a late iron, like, you know, getting your iron mines finished upgrading, getting your iron mines all at once finished upgrading by the beginning of H2 would still be good enough, most likely. And I'm planning on getting the Silk Road, which doesn't need a lot of resources anyway, so, I think I maybe should have done that instead in retrospect. One reason to do this is, though, that I do get stronger than Bull 3. If I only built a warrior, then I would be the same strength as Bull 3. On the other hand, the event deck is only just going to start to flip by Bull 3's turn anyway, so the chances of there being a strength event revealed by my turn, maybe not huge, so... Taking the iron and building a warrior, definitely, maybe that would have been better. Oh, I guess doing it this way, no, right, so I do have enough population, I didn't see, that doing it this way lets me get the tactic immediately, so, yeah, actually, this is probably better, because, this uses up all my military actions in age 1, right, so I can draw H2 cards instead. So, yeah, I guess passing up on the iron, makes more sense from that perspective. It also lets me be strongest, which is nice. It does mean we'll see that I'm going to be, unfortunately, stuck on 3 food during for a little while during H2, so that's never nice. I just got the tactic I won't use. Aaronwebber Seeds reveals the development of warfare, so kind of unfortunate that I did it this way, but obviously I didn't know that this development would be there, so... Aaronwebber takes the Engineering Genius, builds a stage of the Ameji Castle, takes the Columbus, so he probably has a colony in his hand, builds the 3rd warrior to finish his tactic, now he has as much strength as I do, and takes an alchemy. H2 begins. Like I said, I unfortunately have to discard that Engineering Genius. Bull 3, takes the development of warfare, increases the population with legality, upgrades 1 mine, takes the scientific method, which I think even for 3 civil actions, definitely a very important card for them. So, and it's available. It's actually the first H2 card, so fortunate for Bull 3, it's like probably the most important H2 card for them, arguably, and they get it immediately. So, with an urban growth, with 2 urban growths too, so they'll definitely be able to make the economy significantly better in short order. And they adopt the Legion tactic to compete in strength a little bit more. So I'm strongest, but unfortunately I have no events in my hand to seed. I do want to take the Silk Road, even though I unfortunately sadly lost my Engineering Genius. It's still very strong with the Masonry, and it's a good wonder in general to have, so I did want to take it. Aside from that, though, this is a pretty difficult turn for me because I'm in corruption. Well, I can get out of corruption by building the first stage of the Silk Road, so I do that. So now the only question is what to do with my remaining 2 civil actions, but I actually think that's pretty straightforward. I definitely will... The Rifleman is a very important card for me because I don't have the Swordsman, so I actually think that this is a pretty straightforward turn. I don't need the Republic. None of these cards, I think, are worth the civil actions I would spend for them. Unfortunately, even though I'll be on coal, I won't be able to get the Transcontinental Railroad because I'll be working on the Silk Road instead. But I thought that the Silk Road, getting the Silk Road, it was going to take me a very long time to get the Transcontinental Railroad anyway. The Silk Road gives me something to spend my resources on. I will be able to finish it next turn, potentially, with the extra resource from Leonardo. So... I might have been a bit... Maybe I was a bit too wedded to my Silk Road plan, which was one of the reasons I took the Masonry, but I also don't necessarily know if I'll get the Railroad. Maybe Aaronwebber will take it. I draw a Tactic, a Colonization card, and a Colony, although it'll be hard to seed colonies against Aaronwebber. Aaronwebber seeds, reveals a Confucius event, takes a Theology. They definitely need that to get out of Rebellion. And they take an Irrigation, and they develop it because they had nothing better to do with their last civil action. Bull 3 gets to develop the scientific method and upgrade both labs with the urban growths. Takes a Republic. Maybe, you know, this military action will go away eventually, but there are other ways to supplement it with, probably not Robespierre at this point, but maybe with the strategy. So, and Bull 3 does need to get a government form at some point. This is available for 1 civil action. Bull 3 also takes 2 strong yellow cards. Urban growth. I mean, they will need they will need to build an urban building to fix their happy face situation soon. So, this will be used soon. This strong card. Good turn from them. Now it's my turn, so, like I said, hard to seed colonies against Aaronwebber with 3 colonization bonus. On the other hand, I am the strongest, and so I wanted to move the event deck forward for that reason, reveal a card on my turn when I'm the strongest instead of on Aaronwebber's turn, or Bull 3's turn when instead of on Aaronwebber's turn when they'll be the strongest. And I figured maybe with 2 colonization cards I could at least compete for that territory. And I reveal another Confucius event. So this turn, also a little bit difficult, perhaps. Or, not difficult, but there are several options here. So, there is this coal that's available for me. So, I definitely highly considered taking the coal. Let's see, why didn't I? So I could have taken the coal, developed it, and built a coal mine this turn. Let's see what I do instead. I take the organized religion, which I figured, you know, I wanted some, you know, at some point I need the happy faces. The 2 organized religions are already on the road, so I need one of them. And I developed the Rifleman and the organized. Okay. Yeah. So, here, I think this was my logic for this turn. If I took the coal, played it, and developed it, and built a coal mine, that definitely would have been very strong. However, it would have meant I wouldn't get the organized religion. And I thought that the organized religion was too important for me to have, because again, these are the only 2 copies available on the row right now, so I really wanted one of them. Doing it this way also let me, upgrade both my warriors to riflemen. The reason that I played the organized religion without, even though I won't need it for a while, is because playing it this turn gives me enough resources that I can upgrade my warriors twice, which I needed to do to get out of corruption. It's actually... Oh yeah, that was another issue with developing the coal. It was actually kind of a weakness of having Leonardo, where if I had developed the coal, played it, I would have only been on 5 resources. I would have gotten +1 resource from Leonardo, but that would have only put me at 5. And so I could only have upgraded with the rich land, and that would have only spent 4 resources. That would have left me with 1. Oh, but no, that would have still left me out of corruption. So yeah, never mind. The reason that I didn't take the coal was basically I felt that I couldn't take both the coal and the organized religion. And then I couldn't take the coal, build a coal mine, and take the organized religion. I didn't have enough civil actions for that. So I kind of had to choose between the two. And I felt that because these are both copies of organized religion, I wanted one of them, whereas there would be a second copy of coal coming. I guess definitely in retrospect, I'll say it's a spoiler, in retrospect that was definitely the wrong decision. It makes sense at the time because I wanted the organized religion eventually. Doing it this way also gets me Maria, notably. Now, Maria, there is the ocean liner service in the game, so that makes Maria strong. Maria, I think, is already one of the strongest H2 leaders in a 3-player game, because you get her military bonus when you're not the strongest in a 3-player game, which is very common. So I think Maria is very powerful already in a 3-player game, and this is a game that has an ocean liner service in it. So doing it this way also lets me get Maria, a powerful leader. So that's another. So my logic was basically organized religion plus Maria. That, you know, on getting an organized religion at all plus Maria is better than getting the coal early. Now there are some other powerful H2 leaders too. Newton maybe won't be that useful for me. With PI I already have a government form, but Nobel could definitely be good. Well, okay, I guess that's another reason. Like, never mind, because I don't, with Pierre, no. Newton, I'm not going to be on scientific methods or journalism's most likely. Godey, maybe could be fine, but not the most exciting leader, especially when you're not in a 2-player game. James Cook, you know, I don't know if I'll get any colonies. So if I don't take Maria now, I would pretty much be hoping to get Nobel at some point. And obviously Nobel is just a strong all-purpose leader. Both of my opponents could take him instead. So I thought that because this is the only copies of organized religion in the game, and Maria is one of the 2 remaining strong H2 leaders for me, I decided to do it this way instead of getting the coal early. So that logic does make sense to me, but I think maybe in retrospect, the problem with this plan is that in order to get out of corruption, I need to upgrade both of my warriors to riflemen. And in order to do that, I need to play this organized religion long before I'll actually use it. And I think I probably didn't. I felt that with 5 science production, soon to be 6 from the Silk Road, I thought that spending the science now wouldn't be a huge deal. It did kind of end up coming back to bite me, though. Like, spending even just 4 science without really doing anything with it is never someplace you want to be. Another weakness of this play, notably, is that I'll have to delay getting... I probably won't be able to finish the Silk Road next turn, which means that even though I have Maria, I might not be able to get Ocean Liner service because the Silk Road is going to be sitting around for a while. Which if I did the coal play, then I would still have enough resources to finish the Silk Road next turn. So I think those 2 aspects of this play didn't weigh heavily enough on my mind at the time. So I think this was probably the wrong play. Yeah. Discarded an aggression, drew another aggression. Aaronwebber Seeds reveals the knowledge of the ancients. Finishes the Magic Castle. Takes the coal, obviously. Takes an efficient upgrade for the coal and upgrades 1 farm. Ball 3, now takes a Kanmon, so they have both HD government forms in their hand. Plays the drama, takes Bach, so, you know, that makes sense with the drama. They're definitely looking to push culture, so this aligns with that strategy. And Bach, both of you also took Bach during that 4-player game, so they just seem to like Bach as a leader in general. Builds 1 opera, 2 operas, which with the Acropolis gives them enough science to get the Kanmon this turn too. So the Acropolis putting in a fair amount of work for both 3 here. And they take a Selective Breeding and a Patriotism. Selective Breeding, another card I passed up on to do this play, but there'll be a second copy coming, so... Now it's my turn, so I take the cannons. I definitely, especially since I have the defensive army, I really want the cannons. They're available for 1 civil action. Aside from that, so thanks to the knowledge of the ancients, if I develop a technology this turn, I will be able to finish the Silk Road. The question is which one? One option here, which maybe I'll go with, is the cannons and finishing Silk Road. Let's see if that's what I do. Yeah. So, the other cards in the row, the Opera, I'm not going to have population to put into them anytime soon. There is Marlena in the game, so the Opera should be considered. Marlena plus Hollywood. But, actually I might still end up taking one. But, Scientific Method I won't need. Urban Growth, maybe. Cavalryman with the defensive army I didn't think I'd need. Conmon I don't need. Justice System I have Code of Laws. I don't think any of these cards are worth 3 civil actions. So after developing the cannon, which lets me finish the Silk Road, I now have 1 civil action left, which I was pretty much between the Opera and the Urban Growth, I think. But since I'm still only on Bronze Mines and I don't know when I'll be able to be on Coal Mines, I thought that I will be having some resource squeeze issues in this game. And I also, even if I took the Opera, it would be a long time before I could build any of them because I don't have any free populations. I'm going to have to upgrade my farms and mines. I'm going to be spending a bunch of turns doing that. So, I thought that the chances that I would get the Operas anytime soon were quite slim. And Marlena is the only Marlena is in the game, but she's only 1 leader, so, and Bull3 probably is targeting her as well, and they play before me, so I valued the resources instead. Discarded the aggression, got a Modern Army Tactics, so maybe regretting not taking the Cavalryman, but I think it is the last copy of Cavalryman. But defensive army is good tactic too, and an aggression and a strategic territory. Aaronwebber uses Confucius to get a vast territory too, so definitely got, I would say, the second best colony in the game with Columbus, so definitely a high value Columbus there. Although, unfortunately, Columbus did sit around for a while doing nothing, so that's one weakness of Columbus. But maybe Aaronwebber wouldn't have wanted any of those H2 leaders in the row anyway. Aaronwebber can build a coal mine, takes one of the Operas, takes the Opera that's not being removed to prevent both from taking it, notably, and decides to take Gaudy as his H2 leader. Both 3 builds a selective breeding, finishes upgrading their iron mines, so even just with 1 selective breeding, they have enough food to increase the population once next turn. And takes a reserve for 3 civil actions. That's a lot. Probably both 3 just didn't really care about any of these other cards, although there is an Ocean Liner Service here. Yeah, they decide to take the reserves instead. And Cavalrymen, which they definitely need themselves. Now it's my turn. I think I did want to seed here because, again, I'm the strongest. I want to get the event deck moving. Even though Aaronwebber has a +3 colonization bonus, I still have some colonization cards, and also Maria makes bidding a lot of units into a colony easier because she can give you a lot of resources to rebuild your army. So I rebuild the Barbarians. I have the most culture thanks to the Theocracy, but I'm the strongest, so it doesn't hit me. Finally, there's the coal, and I definitely was very happy that it was available for me even here for 3 civil actions because I really need to get my coal mines going as soon as possible. So I think this was definitely the right play here. Aaronwebber seeds, reveals the Dark Ages I seeded, but like I said, I knew it was there, so I made sure to spend my science a lot, so I only lose 2. Ball 3 loses the most, but only by 1. Aaronwebber elects Gotti, upgrades another coal mine, increases population, builds a 4th warriors. Maybe Not sure why, honestly. Oh, maybe it was to get out of corruption, actually. Takes a rifleman, important technology for him, with all those warriors. Bull 3 is, fortunately, the strategy is available for them, so definitely one of the most powerful Age 2 cards. So if you can get it easily, Bull 3 has more than enough civil actions to afford it. Definitely worthwhile. Develops the Swordsman before the age ends, and takes the Statue of Liberty. Bull 3 needs something to invest their resources in. Statue of Liberty will definitely be strong for them with the Age 2 government form. So, upgrades 2 warriors to swordsman and takes the navigation, notably. I think, yeah, all these cards were seeded by Aaronwebber, but they probably figured that Aaronwebber was seeding some colonies because they have this huge colonization bonus, so that makes sense. Well, not all these cards. Some of these cards were seeded by me, and both of those were actually colonies, ironically enough. That's my turn. I have enough resources for a second coal mine. I made sure to set myself up to be able to do that. The age is about to end, so I'm gonna elect Maria now. And I take a breakthrough. Once age 3 begins, 5 science income won't be too much, so the extra science would definitely be helpful. And I think, yeah, I decide to pass up on the selective breeding. You could say take it to make sure I have it, because I definitely will need it, especially with Maria, but also just in general. But Aaronwebber is on irrigation, so he doesn't need it. It would purely be a hate draft for me, and I felt that Aaronwebber wouldn't be able to afford this hate draft. He already has a lot of... well, 2 of these technologies in his hand are going to go away, but he's only on 5 civil actions still, so taking the selective breeding for 2 would be a pretty major cost to him. And I felt that he would have better things to do in his turn, like take the cannons or something. Bull 3 already has the selective breeding, so he can't hate draft it from me. So I thought chances were very strong it would be available for cheaper for me next turn anyway. So instead, I took some yellow cards. Passed up on the reserves because I'm still only on 5 civil actions. So I thought that the rich land is worth 2 this turn, but this is the end of age 2, so age 3 civil actions worth more than age 2 civil actions. So I thought spending 2 civil actions this turn on the rich land to spend 1 less next turn, as opposed to taking the reserves, is worthwhile, because my civil actions soon are going to be much more important than they are on this turn. So, and same reason I took the frugality, you know, especially with Maria, the frugality is a very strong yellow card. Unfortunately, I couldn't seed my turn since I didn't have any events. So I discard the tactic that I won't use, and some aggressions, and I draw a whole bunch of colonization cards, which with the 2 territories that I developed, I was definitely very happy to see. Age 3 begins. Aaronwebber discards a lot of cards, but draws 3 more from the Colossus. The Open Borders Agreement Pact expires. Aaronwebber seeds reveals to develop territory. I decided not to seed anything to it, partly because if I did, then I wouldn't be able to rebuild any of my units, because I don't have any free population, and I wouldn't be able to make one. And also partly because I know that there are 2 much more powerful H2 colonization cards in this deck, so I didn't want to put anything into this when there were more powerful colonies coming. So that's why I didn't bid. Aaronwebber ended up winning it for a single warrior, thanks to his colonization bonus. Takes a cannon, increases population, builds 1 rifleman, so now he's the strongest, takes an efficient upgrade for that coal mine. Bull 3's turn, finishes the Statue of Liberty, develops the strategy, so now Bull 3 is still the weakest, but at least is competing more in strength. And first copy of Air Forces is available during Bull 3's turn, especially since Bull 3 has so many civil actions. I think it's definitely, they definitely want this card very strongly, so I think this was right. And uses their final civil action to increase the population, didn't want any of those H2 cards on the row. I forgot to do it again, but I will look at the general state of the game now at the beginning of Stage 3. So, in culture terms, Bull 3 is in the lead in both culture and culture production. Not by very much, though, so culture is still pretty even. In terms of science, both 3 though is also in the lead, although I'm close behind. Aaronwebber is worst. In terms of resource production, right now we're all relatively equal, though Aaronwebber and I will both soon have more than both 3 with the coal mines. Food situation, both 3 will get selective breedings going soon. I'm also gonna... The selective breeding was indeed not hate drafted, so I'll be able to get those pretty soon, although getting those will end up being my second turn in H3. Definitely not great, but that's how it had to be. Oops. Food situation, therefore, I think is relatively even. Civil and military action situation, though, definitely isn't. Both 3, it has by far the most, thanks to the H2 government form, whereas Aaronwebber and I are both on H1 government forms. So, I would say that both 3 looks to be in the strongest position right now, mainly thanks to those civil and military actions. Has a culture lead, but, you know, isn't much behind an economy to achieve this culture lead. So, like I said, especially with this government situation. So, both 3, I think, is in the driver's seat. I think even right now in terms of who will win this game, but there's still a lot of game left to play. Although, by this point, I was starting to doubt whether or not I would be able to win the game. Although, you never know. Anything can happen in H3, so you never know. I did want to seed because I'm not the weakest, and I also have all these colonization cards in my hand. So even though Aaronwebber has the 3 colonization bonus, even though both 3 has the navigation, I thought with these 4 colonization cards, I should still be able to compete for the colonies. I reveal Foray, which luckily I'm a party of, and that's especially helpful for me because I can take the food to increase my population this turn. I definitely absolutely need the selective breeding. There was a choice for me this turn. Did I want to upgrade my coal first, or did I want to upgrade my selective breedings first? And I ended up deciding that since I have Maria, the selective breedings, the food was more important than the resources because it gives me science too. So I upgraded 1 farm, increased my population, and I decided to use it to build these cannons, because I wanted to spend the extra resources from Maria, obviously. And another reason is I want to play this tactic out of my hand because I want to keep as many of these colonization cards as possible. So, that's why I really wanted to build the cannon this turn, too. So I can play the tactic. I didn't use the frugality, notably. Yeah, I confess, I actually can't think of why. I think maybe, I think I was playing, you know... Well, I won't give excuses. I think that, maybe I... What reason could I have? It's not even... They can't even be afraid of rats, because there's no H1 events left in the deck. I must have had some reason. I really can't think of it, though. Because, so that would have given me 3 food. I wouldn't have been in corruption by doing it. Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter, because I'll be using it next turn anyway, after my food upgrades. Like I said, definitely I prioritize these food upgrades because of Maria. One unfortunate thing is there's this communism in the row that I definitely want to get an HD government form ASAP, but sadly, I will be 1 science short even with Maria, right? Because next turn I'll have 16 science, 17 with Maria, but that's 1 science short. 1 food short of increasing my population 2 times as well. I didn't know there was this, inhabited territory 2 in the deck, though. So if that gets revealed and I can win it, then I'll be able to get the communism next turn. So I was definitely hoping that that would happen. The communism would give me a huge boost right now. Yeah, I'm still not sure why I didn't play the frugality, though. I really can't figure that out. if you have an idea, let me know. But yeah, I can't think of one. Maybe I was a bit worried about corruption issues next turn or something, but I guess I figured it didn't matter because I was increasing my population next turn anyway. I had enough food to, so. Anyway, I have to discard one of these colonization cards. I draw a peace treaty. Aaronwebber now develops cannons, builds one, finishes upgrading his coal mines, upgrades the warriors to rifleman 2 to now he has as much strength as I do, and takes revolutionary idea, probably the most powerful age 3 yellow card. At least it's up there, so makes sense. Ball 3 takes the rockets, so either they have a cannon tactic in hand, or maybe they want to copy the defensive army tactic I played. And they missed out on the cannon, so they definitely do need the rockets. With the rockets now and the air forces, they look pretty safe from potential wars, probably. Ball 3 gains some food with the reserves to build a 3rd theater, and takes the military buildup. So yeah, military buildup, rockets, air forces. Looking like it'll be pretty difficult to get a huge war against Ball 3. And upgrades one of the warriors, perhaps to maybe just to use a free military action. It also guarantees defense against an aggression, even if they have zero defense cards. I don't have any cards to seed. I didn't want to play the peace treaty because I was feeling that my chances of winning weren't that great, and so my chances of finishing first weren't that great, and maybe the only way I could finish first was with a big war, so I didn't want to prescribe myself against possibly warring either Aaronwebber or Ball 3. I upgrade my last coal mine. I take the communism, even though no cards were seeded, so I'm 1 science short. I still want it. I wanted it above the fundamentalism because, unlike in the last game I covered, I'm not going to be on computers, at least not anytime soon, so the -2 from science from the fundamentalism would really hurt me, whereas the happy faces I'll be able to deal with a lot easier. So, I definitely wanted it for next turn. Now, at this point, though, I think the main thing I had to decide was which leader to take. Maria is, I think, arriving at the end of her usefulness, and I do want to get my culture production going soon. It's already, I think, 2 or 3 turns into age 3, you know. Age 3 is a little less than half over, but still, you know, it's reaching the end. I think all of these 3 leaders in the row, Sid Meier, I don't know when or if I'll get computers, so I don't think it would be worth it. Sid Meier would be strong with the internet, but I don't have the civil actions to take the internet this turn and do the other stuff I want to do. So, I would at Sid Meier, but I think the other 3 leaders are all potentially strong. Einstein, I think, is just, in general, one of the best H3 leaders. Arguably the best one. I think he's second best, in my opinion. But definitely very powerful. The abilities synergize very well with each other. Just getting that 3 culture for free, getting the extra science, extremely valuable. Getting 3 culture essentially for free, very valuable. So even though I'm not perfectly set up for Einstein, because I don't have computers or multimedia in my hand or in the row, I just think in general he's a strong leader. Marie Curie, less of a ceiling than Einstein, but maybe more of a floor, because I will need the computers or the multimedia to use Einstein to his full potential, whereas Marie, right now, will give me +2 science and +2 culture every turn, so not as good, obviously, as Einstein's +3 science and +3 culture, but I know for sure that I'll get it studying now. The extra strength she gives me might also be valuable. Marlena is more of a... So, Marlena is my favorite, probably my favorite leader in general, because of the, twice tactics ability. I think is, like, the best leader ability in the game out of, like, all leader abilities in the game. So, even in a situation like this, where I don't have any theaters, I did heavily consider taking Marlena, because I do think her tactics ability is so strong. And, you know, I do have the science and the resources, especially with communism, to build movies at some point. Another reason to take Marlena would be as a hate draft against Bull 3, because Bull 3 definitely wants Marlena. Although, Bull 3 could also probably get by with Chaplain 2. So I did think a lot about which of these leaders I wanted. I did want one of them. I don't think, Gandhi would kind of like be giving up on getting first. Chaplin, I don't think, is like a meh leader at the best of times, and this isn't the best of times. Bill Gates would be late. Bill Gates is very powerful when you get him early. When you get him late, he's kind of mediocre. So I think these are the best leaders available to me right now. So I definitely wanted to pick one of them. And I thought for a very long time about which one I wanted, and I ended up taking Einstein. Like I said, I think that he is like one of the best H3 leaders in a vacuum. He's stronger than Marie Curie in a vacuum. And why I prefer Marlena, and she would be a hate shot against both three. Einstein is available to me for 2 civil actions less. And I was kind of doubting, and like I said, I was kind of thinking I don't have a lot of advantages against both three. Both three is likely to finish first anyway. So I think I was kind of playing for second to an extent, at least, at this point in the game. And I didn't want to hate draft against both three specifically, even though Marlena would be a very strong leader for them. Because even though I do think she's good, even if you don't have any theaters, because of that tactic ability, whether or not I'll be able to get a big war going, I don't even know if I'll get the second copy of Air Forces, although I probably will because I'm playing before Aaronwebber, but I might not. And I don't know if I'd be able to get a good war against either of them anyway. So without having any theaters in my hand, I felt that Einstein, I would, there's 2 copies of computers, 2 copies of multimedia. I thought it was pretty likely I would get one of them relatively soon, and then Einstein would be very strong for me. And I valued that more than the higher floor of Marie Curie. And also he's available for 1 civil actions less than Marie Curie. I think even in retrospect, this was a difficult decision. I honestly think it's really close between all 3 of them, and you can make a case for any of them. But I do now get to increase my population once with the extra civil actions I get for picking Einstein, and not one of those. Plus we get a patriotism, which if I do want to get a big war going, this patriotism will be necessary. So, important card for me to take from that perspective. Discard the peace theory for reasons already stated. Draw another colonization card, an aggression and impact of colonies. Aaronwebber seeds. So, like I said earlier, by this point in the game, I was feeling that I kind of needed to get a war against both three if I had even a chance of beating both three. And I didn't have, as you saw, I didn't have a war in my hand yet. So, not only didn't I not have a war, I didn't even have an H3 tactic in my hand yet. And you kind of want both of those for a big war. So I felt that the strategic territory was extremely important for me for that reason, because it would give me a bunch of extra draws with which I could potentially get both a war and an H3 tactic. So that's why I bid a ton into it. Now, the downside of this is that we know, because I seeded it, that there's also this inhabited territory in the deck, which especially with Maria, who I still haven't replaced because I thought that she would still be useful for a few more turns. I thought that the inhabited territory too is extremely powerful with Maria, obviously, because it also gives you 2 science. So the downside of going all in like this on the strategic territory is I will almost certainly miss out on the inhabited territory. Maybe I'll draw a bunch of colonization cards off of it, but that's obviously not something you can guarantee. Bidding this much, I think this might have been my max bid. I can't quite remember. It does require me to put in all of my colonization cards and 2 units, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 14. I didn't have a good way to get 13 instead of 14, so 14 was probably my max bid. So, a little unfortunate that I had to put so much into it. I do think in retrospect this was probably a mistake. I'll discuss that more at the end of the game, though. Aaronwebber then takes the computers. Strong card, definitely. Aaronwebber needs the science desperately. And with the computers and the coal, he decides to take Marie Curie, adopts my defensive army tactic, increases population, elects Marie Curie, getting science from her, and builds a second cannons, and plays that revolutionary idea. So they'll be able to get computers soon. Gotti, unfortunately, didn't end up being that good for Aaronwebber. Both these seeds with the wealthy territory. we'll see on my turn what military cards I drew, but there weren't any colonization cards among those, I'll tell you that, so I couldn't really compete for it. Both 3 ends up winning the colony for 2 swordsmen. Can I develop a rocket? Builds it, builds 2 rockets, takes Marlena, Elixir, obviously, Marlena available for 1 civil action, extremely strong in both 3's position. Begins the fast food chains wonder. There is a Hollywood coming, but if both 3 is just going to stick on these dramas, the Hollywood wouldn't be very big anyway, so fast food chains does make sense. Then they take a reserves, and they adopt the defensive army tactic. Thanks to Marlena, even only with 1 swordsman, they still get that tactic going, so they are not the weakest. My turn begins, so as you can see, I didn't draw a single war or a tactic, so both of the things that I wanted out of that strategic territory I didn't get, so it definitely ends up, you know, I mean, these impacts, I didn't actually see which impact I seeded, but they're also not particularly exciting impacts for me. Harmony, you know, both of my opponents have a lot of military units. Happiness, both 3 especially has a lot of happiness going. Colonies is best for Aaronwebber. Competition, they also have a lot of military units, so I pretty much just drew a bunch of impacts and this pack that I won't need, and the impacts aren't very good for me either. So definitely ended up being a very low value strategic territory for me, unfortunately. I did seed. I wanted to at least have a chance of getting this inhabited territory. I put 2 units into it, but without any colonization cards, I didn't really have a chance to win it, unfortunately. So I can at least finally, well, I'll get the communism going soon. So I definitely want, this is the last copy of Air Forces, so I definitely want it. I also, right, so I increased my population 1 time with Maria for the last time before electing Einstein, who gets me 3 culture off of developing the communism. So I think all of this is pretty clearly correct so far. So it's just a question of what to use my last 4 civil actions on. There are several important cards on the row. I think the multimedia I definitely really want with Einstein. I did consider playing the multimedia first and ahead of the communism, which I think maybe all else being equal would be ideal because you get the science and the culture going earlier. But I think if I did that play with the multimedia, I wouldn't have enough civil actions to take the Air Forces, which is a necessary card. So that's why I did it this way instead. I also need to rebuild, at least rebuild this rifleman, so I'm not vulnerable to an aggression. I do think, like I said, multimedia with Einstein is a very important card. I also need to upgrade, finally using that organized religion that I played so long ago. That 4 science I spent on it did end up forcing me to wait 1 turn to develop the communism, so it actually ended up being a very impactful -4 science for me, unfortunately. But I'm at least using it now to get to get out of rebellion. So I think all of that was a definitely the right set of actions to take. So the only question now is what to do with my remaining 2 civil actions. I'm out of corruption. I don't have enough science to play anything. I can maybe make another military unit, although I can't actually become not the weakest, unfortunately, because I can only get +3 to military. So I think I decide the military theory could also be defensible. I won't be playing it next turn because I want the multimedia, but once I get the multimedia going with Einstein, I should have enough. I should certainly have enough science to afford it. But at this point, again, I was sort of thinking maybe the only chance I had of winning was to get a big war against both 3, and while the military theory would be helpful for that, with the communism, it's not absolutely necessary. But I felt that with wanting to get the multimedia down, that would cost me a lot of resources, and so, and I think I wanted potentially, I do have this urban growth already, but I guess I felt that I wanted multiple multimedia, so for that purpose, I also was kind of feeling, with Bull 3 having Marlena and these rockets and the air forces, that a war against them probably wasn't likely to succeed anyway, so I thought that it would be more helpful to just build a bunch of multimedias. Especially since that I don't even have a war in my hand yet, so without having a war, hard to justify going too hard into military. So that was probably the reason why I didn't want to take the military theory. I was like, I don't even have a war yet. Even if I got a war, chances look slim that I'll be able to get a big war going. So I thought it would be more helpful to be able to build more multimedias earlier. So that's why I took the urban growth and the reserves. This goes to my pact, drew impact of government, and I did in fact draw... I drew a war and an H3 tactic right at the end there. An H3 tactic that I'm not really set up for, though, because it requires cavalry units. Unfortunately, the Cold War gets revealed while I'm the weakest, so I'm not a party to it, which would have been even better for me with Einstein, but what can you do? Aaronwebber does take the democracy, but chooses to develop computers first, takes that military theory I passed up, and builds one more rifleman. Bull 3 seeds, reveals the developed territory that I seeded. Again, I still have no colonization cards, so I can't really put much into it. Aaronwebber ends up winning it. Bull 3 finishes upgrading their farms, finally develops the navigation. After all the colonies have been played, sadly for them. Takes the modern infantry for extra strength, and also potentially for H3 tactics. Plays the patriotism to upgrade the swordsmen to modern infantry, and takes an efficient upgrade. And the satellites, a little questionable with the navigation, but might be a hate draft against me. Now it's my turn. It's looking like it also might be my second to last turn in the game, so I need to keep that in mind. I seeded, I forget which impact that was now. Reveal impact of strength. Unfortunately, I'm the weakest, and Bull 3 is actually the strongest. So Bull 3 ends up winning this, and I get 0 culture from it. Kind of feeling the push of the strategic territory kind of cost me strength because I had to put T units into it. I thought about building those multimedias, but you'll notice that the last 2 wonders are on the row right now. And I will have a lot of food with the reserves and the Silk Road. I'll actually have 12 food, which will be enough to build 4 stages of the International Red Cross. And so I'm 40 culture behind Bull 3. So again, I felt that chances of overtaking Bull 3, especially since Bull 3 also has a wonder, seemed slim. So I thought that at this point, I was definitely in I'm just going to finish second mode. And I felt that taking the Red Cross, getting food, and getting 4 stages would get me a bunch of culture, especially with all the colonies in play, and would more or less guarantee I would at least finish second above Aaronwebber. So that's why I did that and waited on my multimedias. And I wanted to use, like I said, it was looking like there was a strong chance Bull 3 could end the game on their turn. So I wanted to use my urban growth too before it was gone. I didn't, and none of these cards I wanted. That did force me to have corruption, but I thought it was worth it to get the Red Cross. I draw an impact of technology, which is definitely probably the best impact in the game for me, maybe except for impact of science. But impact of science, Aaronwebber would compete with me for. Impact of culture probably won't be good for me, but it might be with the multimedias, who knows. Aaronwebber seeds reveals an impact of industry. This at least is an okay impact for me. Develops the democracy and the opera, builds an opera, finishes my Red Cross for 6 culture, takes the endowment of the arts for 6 culture, and an efficient upgrade for that computers. Now it's Bull 3's turn. They seed, reveal an impact of variety. This is also an okay impact for me, although it's best for Bull 3. Increases the population, builds a 4th opera, thanks to Acropolis. Plays the positional army tactics, so if I thought there was a chance of a war against them before, I definitely don't now. And builds 2 copies of fast food chains, develops a republic, I guess felt didn't need the military actions anymore, valued the civil actions from the Republic more at this point in the game. Takes an engineering genius for the fast food chains and the military theory. Choosing not to end the game yet, even though I think they could have. So they figured that prolonging the game would be more valuable for them. Probably correct, since they have the most culture production. Although maybe incorrect, because that'll give me an extra turn with multimedias going. So, interesting decision at least. I see that impact of technology, because I know for sure it'll be very good for me. Revealing up prosperity, which gives me more food. So now I finally get those multimedias going. I get to build 2 of them. And I take the pro sports, I think, because it'll be good both for the impact of competition and the impact of happiness. So for 2 of the impacts in my hand, the pro sports will be a valuable card. I have more than enough science. I won't be doing anything with my military, so definitely. I think I considered maybe warring against Bull 3. This is my last chance to, but Bull 3 with the air forces, with the military buildup. Well, actually, Bull 3 doesn't have enough science for air forces this turn, but they do have Marlena with this H3 tactic, the positional army. And I think I did some calculations. I mean, I'm far behind in strength right now, so I would have to... I think I did some calculations, and I wouldn't be able to win a war against Bull 3. So I didn't try. I would only have 3 military actions, so I would only be able to build an air forces and 1 army. Maybe I could have tried putting resources into the military earlier to potentially try to get a war against Bull 3 by the end of the game, but I guess last turn, that was the major thing I could have tried doing. And like, taking the Red Cross was basically saying I'm not going to try a military strategy. So I could have tried putting some units into my military instead to potentially war against Bull 3. But I figured with the air forces and the military buildup, and Marlena, and, you know, these Age 3 military technologies, I thought the chances of a successful war against Bull 3 were pretty slim. So I ended up just taking the revolutionary idea instead to get more culture with Einstein. I draw a war, a colonization card, and an aggression that I won't be using. Age 4 finally begins. Aaronwebber increases his population, builds a second opera, takes up patriotism, takes an urban growth, finally finishes upgrading their farms, kind of funny, and takes an engineering, and plays the entrenchments tactic. I think it was Aaronwebber I was considering warring against, but I actually, if basically I could have won a war against Aaronwebber, but if he had the entrenchments tactics, he would have beat me, which he did indeed have, but also I felt that I was almost certainly going to beat Aaronwebber anyway, so there was no need to risk a war. Bull 3 tries an aggression against me, but I did prepare to have just enough to defend. Increases the population 3 times, builds 1 more stage of fast food chains, takes the mechanized agriculture, increases it, so there's probably an impact of agriculture in the deck, in the event deck. Builds a swordsman, finishes the fast food chains this turn, even though it's not the last turn yet. Gets 20 culture from it, though, which I think more or less kind of solidifies that they'll win this game. I see the impact of competition. I did some math with my turn. I'm going to end up actually putting some resources into military this turn because after having spent those defense cards against Bull 3's aggression, I'm vulnerable to an aggression now from Aaronwebber and Bull 3, and they can probably figure that they have a good chance of winning an aggression against me because I spent those defense cards. So I am going to spend this turn building up my military, which means that the impact of competition will be the best for me. I reveal an impact of balance, which is pretty good for me. It's at least alright. So, yeah, I develop both of those technologies, play the revolutionary idea, which gives me just enough science for the civil service. I think I might have even planned that out last turn. So I get both 3 more technologies for Einstein and for the impact of technologies, so that'll give me a lot of culture. Destroy a mine. I didn't want to destroy the farm. Bull 3 building this mechanized agriculture made me figure there was almost certainly an impact of agriculture in the deck. I think I had also seeded an impact of science maybe, or maybe I was worried the impact of science might be in the deck. yeah, it hasn't been revealed yet. So I didn't want to destroy my labs either. I was also a bit worried about maybe an impact of architecture being in the deck. So I felt that, oh right, and the impact of industry has already come out, if you recall. So I felt that the mines were the less risky, and I have the impact of harmony in my hand. So I know that the impact of industry has already come out. I have the impact of harmony in my hand. So I know for sure that these mines won't help me with any impacts. So to destroy 2 of them for an air force and an arena, which protects me from aggressions and also helps with the impact of competition I seeded. And I take a mech ag to prevent Aaronwebber from having it for the impact of agriculture. Aaronwebber plays the endowment, plays the military theory, increases population, builds a 3rd opera, upgrades his lab, plays a patriotism, increases population, so it's able to build a 3rd cannon, and adopts the positional army tactics, so he's not the strongest, though the impact of strength has already come out of the deck. Bull 3 increases the population, plays the military build-up, builds a 3rd farm, so there's definitely an impact of agriculture in the deck, is able to get a few more military units, and ends their turn. So before the final impacts, we can see that I'm 39 culture behind Bull 3, but 20 culture ahead of Aaronwebber. So it's going to be pretty hard for there to be a set of impacts that changes this order of things. Bull 3 on 1st, me on 2nd, and Aaronwebber on 3rd. There is the impact of tech in the deck, which will give me a ton of culture, so that's pretty much my last hope for finishing 1st in this game. So there is indeed an impact of science in the deck, though. I might have seeded that, actually, come to think of it. So that will also help me out a lot against Bull 3. It actually puts me only 15 culture behind them. Impact of government is next. That gives me +3 culture against Bull 3, so now I'm 12 culture behind them. Here's my impact of technology. That gives me +8 culture against Bull 3, so I'm actually only 4 culture behind them, despite it looked a lot bigger to start things out with. Unfortunately, there is an impact of agriculture in the deck, which will give Bull 3 +5 culture against me, and now I'm 9 culture behind them. And the last impact is the impact of competition I seeded, which will give me +1 against Bull 3, but that won't be enough, and I will finish the game in 2nd place. Only 8 culture behind Bull 3, though. Looking back over this game, I definitely saw a lot of mistakes I made. I think the biggest mistakes, in retrospect, I think taking that theocracy, I can see why I did it. There was some logic to it, but I think it definitely ended up hurting me in the long run. I could have gotten a, I think Barbarossa, Leonardo did end up being a strong leader for me, though, so maybe it was okay. Barbarossa, though, would have also obviously been useful for me, saved me a lot of civil actions, a lot of food and resources. I think the much more questionable play, though, and the one that probably lost me this game, was when I passed up on the first coal to instead get the organized religion. Playing that organized religion so early really, really hurt me. Not only did it mean that I didn't get that coal, but it also, as we saw, meant cost me 1 turn on the communism. So I think, technically, like in terms of individual turns, that turn was a major mistake on my part, and probably led me to lose this game. The other major mistake, I think, was bidding so much on the strategic territory. That was more a long-term mistake, though. I think that I sort of underestimated how much I could catch up to Bull 3. I was honestly surprised by the end of this game that I was only 8 culture behind Bull 3. So I think I kind of underestimated the extent to which a peaceful victory was possible for me, even though Bull 3 was, had the advantage in culture production. As it turns out, there were still a lot of opportunities for me to increase my culture peacefully, which I do think I underestimated. And so instead of putting so much into the strategic territory, if I had saved, if I only bid 1 unit, for example, or if I hadn't bid all of my colonization cards, then I almost certainly would have been able to win the inhabited territory later, and that would have given me a huge boost both with Maria and just with my population situation. Maybe even would have let me get all 5 stages of the Red Cross, or something to that effect. would have given me 2 extra culture with Maria too. So just, you know, that extra stage of the Red Cross plus 2 culture with Maria would have ended up tying me with both 3 actually in retrospect. So I think, but that mistake, like I said, was more of a long-term, like I thought that I needed to win with military when I actually didn't. I think short-term, the turn when I passed up the coal definitely cost me the game. I think that I was worried about my happy face situation if I passed up the organized religion, but there would have been other ways to fix it. I could have potentially gotten a team sports, not perfect when I already have the free religion, but it would have been fine, or pro sports in H3. I ended up not needing that happy face, indeed, until H3 even. So the 3 happy faces really lasted me a long time. And I think in general, waiting so long on the coal meant that it took me a long time before I upgraded any of my economy. It was already well into Age 3 by the time I finished upgrading my firms and mines, and that definitely cost me a lot. So, that turn, bad turn on my part, not appreciating, even with that turn though, if I had appreciated earlier that a peaceful victory was still possible, I might have been able to win. I might have even been able to win if I had heat drafted Malena and played her and expected to get movies later, which definitely could have happened. Although Einstein also ended up being an extremely powerful leader for me in the end. But, I did... So maybe maybe even with my mistakes, if I hadn't bid so much for the strategic territory, I might have been able to win the game by getting the inhabited one instead. Hard to say, things would have been different, but, yeah, definitely a much less smooth game for me than the previous one I covered was. But I'm glad I went over it to see the mistakes I made and to confirm where my reasoning was faulty. Now to take a brief look at the standings after that game. I came in second and both 3 came in first, so both 3 is now ahead of both Vampire D and Aaronwebber thanks to that victory. But since both 3, unfortunately, that timeout is looming a bit large now. But because of the timeout that they did in the first 4-player game and getting third in the second 4-player game, they're still well behind me, so I'm 8 points ahead of both 3. At least I got second, so that gives me a little bit more breathing room. So I'm still definitely well in a position to win this group, obviously. But if both 3 wins most of their remaining games and I bum out and lose some of my remaining games, both 3, or potentially... Both 3 can definitely overtake me. That win obviously advances them a lot. But even Vampire D and Aaronwebber, the group is not over yet. If they, you know, win most of their remaining games, and I lose a lot of my remaining games, I think they still have the chance to beat me. But obviously, at the very least, who finishes 4th, I almost certainly won't finish 4th at least, but I think any of the other 3 all have to battle for not finishing 4th. So certainly a lot to play for in the remaining games in this group. So anyway, though, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment if you can. Let me know what you thought I did well in this video, what you thought I did poorly, or if, in the game, if you agree or disagree with my analysis, or, you know, have any other turns that you think that I made a mistake, or that you think I did anything particularly good even. I'm definitely still an amateur at both Through the Ages, competitive, and making videos. So I highly appreciate any comments anyone might leave. Anyway, I am planning, like I said, to at least record all the videos in this group. So the next 3-player game has actually already